Yeah, just sharing any wins of like what worked for you last week. We'll start with Sue. We just ask that each person just get to the heart of the win. Yep, it's like that right now. Yes.
So my first win was just being really actively involved with texting, like especially the 3 days, and literally into like it's 7 o'clock in Arizona and I'm still texting kind of participation, which made me feel that I was doing something very specific that was helpful, rather than just like listening to these are people are saying this and this people are saying this and this people are saying that. Then I didn't listen. I would check in every once in a while to see where things were, and then I found the New York Times thing. I was like, this is all I need. And then from there, I felt like a certain calm by the next day, just because I feel like I did everything that I could. The numbers are trending well. And because of where I was texting, I kind of had a strong feeling that any absentee ballots that came in were going to be very, very Democratic. And then that's what ultimately carried forward. So I think for me, by Wednesday, I had a pretty strong understanding that we were going to win. It was just a matter of when. And I was also just, I think I didn't want to, in that Zen way of not getting too high and not getting too low, I was trying to take a middle ground, because I recognized that because we're like the country's kind of split half and half, there's going to be a lot of work to do to get everyone onto the same page. If we're going to stay United States, we've got to change how we're interacting with each other. So that helped me keep my center, I guess. And also seeing like, and not to get like, oh my God, this is great. And there's work to do. So just kind of trying to keep the balance with that.
So great, Sue. I really hear you using the, like diving into the area of activism to be a participant. That really helped you stay focused, the positive self-talk, the way you were working with your mind to keep yourself kind of balanced and, you know, in the moment. Sounds like those things really worked for you.
Yeah, and kind of staying away from the talking heads.
And minimizing the input of just the noise that oftentimes we think, oh, if I don't know what's going on, that causes me more stress. But actually, sounds like you found the news outlet that worked for you, that brought you the information and then released the rest of the noise. Yeah, powerful. Good job. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, thanks for all your activism.
Thank you.
It's really fun. Cool.
I've never done it. I've literally never done it before. So this was totally new for me.
Yeah, one of the gifts of this time, we'll get called forward into doing new things. So beautiful. Thanks for being a demonstration. Who else wants to share? Laura. Philadelphia. I just have to say Philadelphia. Sorry, I'm hyper tonight. Oh, I can't hear you. Oops.
Okay, I got it.
There we go.
I had a girlfriend call and say, could I stay with you for 5 days and help with the election? And I got so excited about it. I mean, first of all, I was going, oh my God. And then second of all, I went, wait a minute, I can serve. And I did. I made breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Nice.
They didn't have to think about a thing. They were here in my house, and there was people calling North Carolina, people going out to canvass people, and I would serve them breakfast, lunch, and dinner and make sure that they had hats and gloves and hand warmers and whatever the hell else they needed. And it felt so good to do something that I knew I could do, and I knew it was really helping. It was just, and especially being here. I mean, we're Philly proud today. We just are. I mean, you know, yeah, it was really something. It was really something. This city just went crazy yesterday. Crazy. Oh my gosh. It was better than the Eagles winning.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And Laura, specifically, let's slow it down, because I think there's a good nugget in there for you. I mean, you're a big-hearted person anyway. You like to show up for people. So how specifically did that support you in staying more grounded than you would have if you hadn't done it? Like, what do you think it was?
I was no longer on the outside. I was on the inside. For me, First of all, I was learning so much about our democracy. I didn't know that there are people, when the ballots are not correct, there's information going to somebody so that they can go knock on their door and tell them that this is a problem. Could we help you get to the polls?
Oh,
I mean, you cannot imagine the machine that was in this house
wow.
and what was going on. So that felt really grounded. It also felt grounded to eat really good food. Like I would have candles on the table. We didn't talk politics when we were there. We just did. There were some dance breaks. You know, it was just, it was soothing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, for me, it's really soothing to have company. I
Yeah.
love, you know, I love having company in my house, but it was more like a family.
Yeah.
You know, we were a family doing something important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
And it was Sister Goddesses, I will have to say.
Yeah. So Sister Goddesses, for those of you who don't know, are people in the Mama Gina School of Womanly Arts community. So people that have taken the classes are called Sister Goddesses. So Laura's referring to that.
The ask was, there was a moment when I thought, because I actually took care of somebody else. The next day, I had 4 days where I was cooking and cleaning and taking care of somebody else. And I went, this is going to be too much. And it was. I have to say it was, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that stuff's not convenient, right? It's like not, but I hear that making the contribution has you walking out of this time feeling filled on another level, even if physically you're tired.
So filled,
Yeah.
so filled, so filled, so filled. In so many ways, I learned so much about the Electoral College. I learned so much about the percentages of above, and I learned so much about what's going on in Georgia. I feel like getting on a plane and going down to Georgia and doing the same thing down there. So, you know, it really made me feel like I was a much more educated consumer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said about putting yourself in the mix and understanding and participating. I really hear. It's beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, who else wants to share? How did you go into last week, or what did you use?
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay. On a personal note, I made a really conscious choice on Tuesday to, I kept the mantra in me, what good's going to come from this, what good will come from this, and staying at a high level of consciousness that this was out of my control. I have voted, I've done what I could to support it. So it wasn't always easy to stay in that place, but I made that specific choice, you know, that to not be pulled down by it, you know, and just trust. But another extraordinary thing that happened was I had so many conversations with my 2 adult sons and my granddaughter about democracy, and we've never done that before. And it felt good because there was a lot of reflection from my son that, you know, this is like what you taught us when we were young, Mom, you know, that kind of stuff. That felt really good. And that my granddaughter was so interested. It was her first year voting, and just wanting to learn about it. And so I just loved seeing how everyone was waking up to how important this process is and to pay attention. I mean, I've been crying for the last 2 days too. But it was just so special, you know, to remember that even when things seem so dire, that so much good was coming out of this, as well as what people were learning, and that they may never have paid attention to that before or even voted before. And also, I live in Nevada, so all nations, everybody's eyes were on us. And I was bombarded in the most loving way with every funny meme about Nevada and how slow we were. So that was kind of endearing. I mean, we were just as frustrated too, but it was so funny how everybody reached out, you know, like, come on, Nevada, pick up the pace, you know, and so, so a lot of good came from it. Of course, I'm thrilled with the the actual outcome and the fact that I get to see a woman in office in my lifetime and that it's inspiring my granddaughter. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
good. Thank you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just really hear again the participation, the connections you were making with your family, like that was a big part of staying like in your with your intention to be in your heart, to like really get like I can't control all of this. I have no control, like really using your mental well-being. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And every USM skill that is embedded in me.
Oh,
Yeah, which I am to this day still so grateful
oh my
for.
gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
USM is the University of Santa Monica, where I went to grad school, and so did Nancy and Patricia Joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Oh,
And
such a
thank
gift.
you for this, Donna. This is wonderful.
Oh my gosh.
It's been really wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mhm.
Like Laura, this was what I could do. Like just, you know, just like we each had our thing that we could do. And this felt like
Yeah.
my version of lunch and dinner and breakfast. And you don't want that from me. Let's put it
I
that
want,
way.
I just want to add one funny thing real quick. My granddaughter called and said, "Can you explain the Electoral College to me?" And I went, "I'll get back to you on that," because I didn't know the history of it. I understood the process. So, but YouTube's got a ton of cool videos and kids like videos.
Yeah.
So I found one and sent it to her. So
Okay.
that was good. And I watched it too, but it was funny. I'm like, oh, I'll find out.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Information's helpful. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to be doing a little process in a little bit to kind of reflect on what worked for us during this time, because, you know, yes, Joe Biden's going to the White House and the world's basically the same right now. Like we still have to, like, we have a lot of work to do.
A
So
lot of work to
yeah,
do.
we're going to talk about, what
Okay.
are some of the anchors you can take into your life. So thank you, Patricia Joy.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
great. Beautiful. Great to have you here. Who else?
Thanks.
Roberta, Nancy, want to share anything?
Sure, I'll share that stayed pretty calm Tuesday for most of the day, till till after 7, and then when I started to have like a sense of dread and disbelief, not about the presidency, but more so about the Senate, and I allowed myself, it's like, oh my God, I feel so much disbelief. I know it's not just me, and I had a hard time sleeping, but what I did was frame it, because I was saying, I am in disbelief. And I was like, no. Yes, I am in disbelief. But if I say I feel disbelief for my body, that it moves through. But if I say I am, it sort of gets stuck.
Yes.
So I was able to catch myself in that and like have it move through and really, go through my day overtired on Wednesday, but stay centered. That was really good, and not like go nuts. But the other thing I did, which actually helped me too, was I watched Fox News.
I love it. You're like, I'm just going in. I want to understand these people.
Exactly, because I want, if we have,
I don't want to do that, but I love that you do.
If we have almost an equal amount of people,
right,
which is mind-boggling to me, who wanted Donald Trump for president, then what are they seeing? And what I found was on Fox, the news part, not their commentary, because the news part is actually mostly balanced, and even more so in a way than I found that on CNN and MSNBC. So they actually put out both sides, which I did not know. Except, it's like I can't watch Hannity, Tucker Carlson, or Laura Ingraham. They made me want to go homicidal. So I won't. But their news is like, oh, this is they're actually what, in some ways, what news used to be, except they do have a little bit of a right bent, but it's not so big that you can't weed it out.
Yeah. So how did that help you with your well-being? Because I don't want to spend a lot of time on like what the news channel did. How did that help you?
it helped me to have a sense of what more people watch Fox News. So it helped me to have a sense of what their intake was
Got it.
in the news portion.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, I allowed myself to celebrate like my body wanted to yesterday.
Nice.
Like I was singing "Oh Happy Day" all day long and like wiggling and moving all over the place. I pussy flashed my husband. He's sitting on the couch. It was like, yeah, you know, it's like,
I'm a Gina thing, people, just so you know.
Oh, sorry.
I forgot. No, it's okay. I'm doing my best to interpret for all groups.
Yes. And it was like, I just, you know, like I allowed myself the relief.
Yeah.
The relief of like, oh wow. And I also found what was really interesting was the first person to contact me was a friend who lives in Nigeria.
Wow.
And it was like, she goes, I'm doing a happy dance over here.
Yes.
So it's like
the world likes us again.
Yes, to have that sense of like, it's like there's a lot of people worldwide who are happy for the
who are caring. Totally.
So, and just like basking in it and allowing myself to celebrate now and not go into the future, because it's not always going to be like this, and it might change tomorrow, whatever. But yesterday and today, yes, Philadelphia, all the way. So like, yeah, and Nevada too. You know, like, through and like, and to see like black women are holding us up.
Yeah, have held us
up. They're moving us forward.
Yes. Yeah. So I really hear you stated like that piece of like, be here now, which is a big part of our well-being. It's like in the like, even if you're feeling stressed, it's like you can be here now and tend to yourself. When you're celebrating, be here now. Don't worry about what's coming next. It's like, something about staying in the moment is really powerful. So thank you, Roberta. Yeah, so good. And I love that you pussy flashed your husband. That's hilarious. And if you want to understand more about Pussy Flash, go read Regina Thomashauer's book, Pussy: A Reclamation, at local retailers. I'm just kidding. No, her book's really amazing and talks about how pussy flashing was a way that we used to do the world when we wanted things to happen, crops to grow, keep storms to settle. That's how it used to happen. So you might want to check out that book if you haven't heard of it.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Nancy, Sharon?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit. What was the question again, though? Tell me what was your question?
Just zeroing in on what worked for you last week.
Oh, okay.
In terms of staying your well-being. Yeah.
First of all, pushy flash sounds like something that happens when you go through menopause.
It's way better than that. It's way.
I'm gonna have to check that out. So, so what I decided to do on Tuesday, I just decided, or Monday night, that I was not going to watch anything in terms of the election for the next couple days. So I binge watched like Schitt's Creek and, a bunch of Netflix stuff and some other stuff. And it was really kind of nice because I just disconnected, because I just it makes me so anxious. This whole thing made me so anxious. So I was pretty good until about, Wednesday I took a peek. It's like, oh, they haven't decided anything yet. And then Thursday and Friday afternoon and Friday, then I got hooked into the television again. So, but I think there was this, I don't know, I just had this thing inside of me, like, I can't worry about this because it's just, I can't breathe as it is, with what's happening. So I don't know, it's hard to describe, because I just felt like, I didn't ever think it was going to be a landslide, but I just felt like maybe all these prayers that everybody is doing really are going to be answered. And how could the world possibly accept this person again for 4 more years? And so my way of coping was really just kind of, I shut it out as much as I could, because it just, I just can't take that stress anymore, And then on, what was it, Friday, when things started finally, I'm like, would you just call the damn election already? So, but yeah, I just, I tried to connect with people that were, I don't know, just like being positive about it and not too many conversations about it, because then I find that that's not helpful because we're all just speculating. So I didn't get out and do anything because of, the situation I'm in right now. And of course, COVID and stuff. So I didn't get involved with some things, but I saw, after watching the election things going on in the centers, I thought, well, maybe next time around, I'd like to be one of those that counts the ballots next time around. Cause
Yeah,
that's,
I know, right?
that's kind of cool, so yeah, so I was just really low key. I tried to stay really low key because it was just my mental state was, I just couldn't take any more stress, so I just disconnected, and it was good for me to do that. So
Yes.
until it's like, just call it, it's
Right.
like he's
Right.
not, but other, really overall, it was just really just staying away. I didn't, there was people in the property that I live on. There's a few different houses and units here. So it's kind of like our little like COVID group of people. So of course I was seeing them, but I'm like, okay, I don't want to talk too much about this. So I don't want to hear what anybody's saying. I don't want to, get into the whole thing with any news organization. And that just really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Helped me stay sane.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I had to do this time around.
Yeah. So good. It reminds me of when I was pregnant with my son. And I remember I couldn't watch any shows about births. I didn't want to talk to anyone about births because I just wanted to be in my own experience.
Yeah.
And that was like how I could stay connected, was by just kind of like being very clear about who I would listen to or talk to or watch, because I knew I could easily go into freak out and fear if I were to do that. So,
and and I didn't want to have that experience that I had 4 years ago watching those numbers when Hillary was running, and just like going to bed with this like sick feeling in my stomach. It's like, I can't do that again. I just don't want to watch this, so for me, that was the best choice I could make. And then of course, Saturday rolls around and I turned on my phone in the morning and it hadn't been called yet. And then I got up about like 20 minutes later and said, okay, let me turn on the TV. And then by that time it's called. It's like, oh my God, just the relief, like, my God, I can't believe this, So yeah. So
totally.
that was my
So
story.
good. All right, Nancy, well done. Way to take care of yourself during this time. All right, let's go in for Sharon. Sharon.
Hi.
Sharon. And again, focusing on the wins of self-care or well-being this week.
Okay. So I think for me, there's a couple of key self-care needs or well-being needs. One is sufficient sleep, which I got on Tuesday night after working a very, very long election day and night, but I then got a good 10 hours. And the not so much since. The other is action, which I got lucky this week because like Wednesday, as we're all my volunteer team is talking about what we did and waiting and talking, and I wasn't watching TV. I was looking at some online reports, but and then we got an emergency call to rally a bunch of volunteers to help with one of the potential Pennsylvania lawsuits. And so we had a whole fire drill on that and another long night. And then the next day, the same thing happened again, like at 4:30 in the afternoon, we got called in to help on that. But it was, for me, and maybe it's just postponing feelings or suppressing them, I don't know, but because I know I'm like this, if I'm in an emergency or in a grief situation, like, I learned this about myself when my grandmother died when I was in high school. Like, I was the one who wanted to handle everything. Let me take care and do all the actions and whatever. And it's a way for me to kind of process the experience. So, and now, I mean, I'm in here because in the other room, I'm recording the fundraising call that's going on because we're starting Georgia, because everything now comes down to Georgia. So that will keep me sane. And it is a form of well-being, even though I'm sure it can also be to a fault, be dangerous at a point, and we'll have to tease that out.
Yeah.
But for now, being able to be productive or useful on this subject seems to help. The other thing is that I am very much a seasonal affective disorder kind of person. And the fact that the goddess gave us in New York or on the East Coast gorgeous, warm
yeah.
Indian summer weather
Yeah.
for the end of last week and this weekend is life changing. Like I was outside, I drove up to the Berkshires and walked in the woods, and
Nice.
you know, it's just heavenly. And I think had it been 40 and gray outside, it would have been more challenging for me than this, but that was very restorative.
Yes. So good.
The only other thing, I'm sure everyone, I'm sorry I was late to the call. I was getting the fundraiser underway and recording, but I'm sure everyone had the same thing. We were driving up to the Berkshires at the time that they called Pennsylvania, and my text thread, since it was Pennsylvania that put us over.
Yes.
Meaning my months of work, you can see the t-shirt, we're not for naught. It was, I mean, I literally broke down sobbing. The relief that I had no idea how much physical anxiety was in there. And, you know, I cried pretty regularly for the next, 20 hours.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I'm sure I'm not the only one on this call who's reported that.
We were saying that. Yeah. A bunch of us were saying, it's like, didn't know how much we were holding until it was over. And then it was like, oh my, yeah.
And I will say, it's very much not over, but it's a huge, beautiful moment to savor.
Totally.
And keeping those two levels of awareness going is the challenge and the important part, I think.
Yeah. We were saying with Roberta, it's like, was it Roberta? Yeah. We were saying like, it's stay in the present, because it's like, be here, celebrate now. When it's time to start getting into action again, when it's time to like galvanize again, everybody keep going. But it's like, what part of well-being is just stay here, do the things you need to do, is a part of taking care of that. So thank you. Yeah, so
Thanks.
good, and so well done.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you did. So cool.
Thanks. Thank
yes. You. All right. So I want to take a moment for us to reflect, because we've been together the last 5 weeks during a really focused time of like with the election and what that was bringing up. And I know we were just talking about staying in the moment, but we have to also be aware. It's like, the election was a microcosm of like, just like it's a moment in time where it felt like we could see the ability we had to like, the choices we had. We could either be really in stress and stay engaged in the news and take the whole freaking ride, or we could really put attention. And each of you showed up to these calls, most of you regularly, to put attention on how can I have an impact on my life, no matter what is going on in the world outside of me. And that's the that was the whole point for me of having this call. And having a container that we could return to, and having a focus each week and a focused time to not only acknowledge what we were doing, but make plans for like what's happening. And so some of the things I'm already hearing on this call is like, hey, we're heading into winter, which means more time for many of us, more time inside, shorter days. We are still in a pandemic. And, and even hearing from President-elect Biden, like, there may be some shifts in what we're allowed to do and what we can't do because we're trying to get this, pandemic under control. We have, holidays are going to be very different this year because of the, social distancing and quarantining and all that stuff. So, and that's just like what we see on the global scale. And then we all have different times in our lives, whether it be surgery and the capabilities of our body, whether it be stuff going on with our family and the way someone in our life shows up and tends to bring up certain things in us, that it's really important that we really take the time to go, I have dominion to the degree that I can take actions that impact my experience, no matter, to the degree, I at least won't add to my suffering. Right? Like our bodies may be in pain. We may have limitations with going out, but we don't have to add to that. with our own thinking or the way we're using our time or what we're putting in our bodies, what we are doing or not doing for ourselves. So it's a skill set to be able to really say, I have to do this. So I want to take a little time for you each to reflect on some questions. So do y'all have a journal or piece of paper or something near you that you can write with? You can go get it if you don't have one near you. I just want to take maybe the next 15 minutes. We're going to do some reflecting with some questions. Just give me a thumbs up when you've got your stuff. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Sue, yes. Sharon. Laura, yeah. Did I see a thumb up? Yep. Okay, great. Nancy, you got yours? Okay, she needs a minute. I don't want to make you get up, but I'm gonna. Okay. So the intention for what we're going to do for the next few minutes is really like self-reflection. Okay. We're just going to like look back over the last 5 weeks. The intention is to capture it as best as you can. You can always go back and reflect on these. But the goal here is to we want to see what worked, what helped, what impact even gathering weekly did for you and stuff like that. Okay. So the first question, and I'll type it in the chat. I'll tell you, and then I'll type it in the chat if you need to like look back at it. But I just want you to reflect on 5 weeks ago when we first came together. How were you feeling? We were, it's like the election was 5 weeks away. Were you feeling anxious, overwhelmed, angry, fearful? What were you feeling? As best as you can remember. And then for those of you that are ready, and again, just take your time, reflect on any shifts that occurred to your experience. So before they announced the election, because I know the outcome of the election has helped a lot, but even before that, what shifts started to occur for you? Maybe you started feeling a greater experience of peace. Maybe you started to feel more resourced. Maybe you began to feel more balanced. Maybe you found yourself easily choosing things that were adding to your well-being versus adding stress. Just kind of notice. Again, you can go back and get a little bit deeper at some point, but we're just trying to hit on the overall. I want you to reflect on what were the actions that contributed to that most contributed to your sense of well-being. Like, did you find yourself, like I loved how Sharon was like, throwing herself into activism kept her balance, but she's aware that there might have been, you know, maybe there may be some emotional stuff coming a little bit later. But it is important to notice what worked for you. You know, like Patricia was talking about, like using her mind to like really keep herself like at a certain mindset. For others, it's like not engaging too much allowed them to stay more connected to themselves and their heart. So just, Laura talked about good food, but look at what worked, and then maybe look at what did you avoid or feel challenged to do. Maybe you were really good at the mental level, but you weren't really letting yourself feel the emotions. Maybe you did the mental stuff and ate like crap. I tended to do that a little bit this week. And no judgment, just curiosity. And if there was something you could have done over this last month or so that we've been together, if there's anything, like you really look at like how did you do overall, might there have been anything that looking back, you're like, I wonder if I would have tried that, how that might have impacted me. Just anything that you're aware of in this moment. Just maybe it was like filling yourself up more inspirationally could have helped, or doing another breath work class, or tapping more, just being more involved on the activism front. Just what might have, and again, no judgment, just from a place of reflection. Everybody ready for the next question? So like, what difference did it make to have a weekly container? Like, do you think if you hadn't been doing this as a class or as a group, or to have a place to come to once a week, what do you think your experience might have been like? Or just maybe don't reflect on what it would have been like without it, but what benefit did it give you to come, to have a place to do that with others? And then the last question, you're all doing great. Just like looking ahead to your next few months between now and the end of the year. It's just kind of a nice chunk of time. Just kind of looking ahead to what you've got going on in your world, and like what kind of support or what kind of actions, knowing that we've looked at all the different levels, like where do you sense you would benefit from putting attention on? You know, again, with the election, we could look at it and go, oh, okay, well, I know if I avoid the news and reduce the amount of social media time, that's going to help me. Well, I want you to each look into your lives, like, because we all have different things going on now, right? Whether it's you're worried about winter and being cooped up inside a lot, or you're worried about, you know, you're in a healing process with your body, or, you know, you're worried about the holidays and disappointing that family member that you won't break the COVID bubble and go be with them, or I don't know, like you each have your own thing that's coming forward. So yeah, what might you want to put in place, or what kind of support would feel good? You know, I have one client that I work with, and she's like, so she has me as her coach. I've been working with her for 4 years, and she's always like, what kind of containers do I need to put myself in? She's writing a book, so she's got, you know, she's got a writing coach, and she wanted to work on dating, so she was working with working on some of her dating stuff, like she was working with a dating coach. Just, you know, she wanted to work on her body, so she's got a person to help her with that. So just like, yeah, if you looked at what kind of container might you need, it might just be checking in with friends, because that would help. It doesn't really matter what the container is, but I just want you to take a moment to feel into that, knowing what you're coming up to in the next few months. I know these are a lot of questions. You're all doing great. And when you're ready, the last one is I want you to write yourself some self-acknowledgements for your willingness to give yourself this attention over the last 5 weeks, to doing your part for, you know, just focusing on your well-being. It's important you take that in. There's a lot of people out there that probably just took the ride, didn't know they can make an impact on their own well-being. Okay, I'm gonna give you another minute. And while you're taking that last minute, we're all going to share one thing that you wanted to, like, what stood out to you from all that you just wrote? Like, what are you most aware of, made a difference? What'd you learn about yourself? Okay, 30 seconds. Tick, tick. This is way faster than Nevada. I'm just kidding, Patricia. I had no control over Nevada, but I do on this call. I have power on this call. Did you see the meme of the kid running like this? This is the best. That was hilarious.
That was my favorite one.
And I was like, I want to love that kid so hard because he
I
was
know.
actually doing that in real life. It was so
I know, he was just like a
How
little
was he running?
superhero. Yeah.
How was
he
he
was
running?
pretending it was like this little league group, but the little boy was like, he was running to home, but he was running like he was a slow motion action figure, like, or action hero. He was like literally, and you see the coach come out like, come on, and he backed him off, and the
He's like, no.
kid kept going. It's hilarious. So they were saying that was Nevada. And it was,
Yeah.
and then the guy waiting at home base was like the rest of the world waiting for Nevada to come in.
Yeah.
All right, my darlings. So let's just do, we have about 9 minutes remaining together. I'm a little sad. I only have you for 9 more minutes. But yeah, I just want to hear some, like, what did this grand experiment teach you? Yeah, whatever you want to share from what you just wrote, but there's a bunch of you to share. So just get to like the heart of what you want to share.
I'll go, since I'm already on mic too. I'll go real quick. How important it is for me to create physical movement and to walk and be outside. That was my go-to therapy.
Nice.
And then the second thing, when I was struggling with allowing myself to feel a lot of the sadness because I would feel overwhelmed with it. So I watch like animal rescue videos that start out horrific, but they always end well. And I just cry, and it's a big release for me. So those are my two go-tos during the last 5 weeks. Yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
how do you think, Patricia, it would have been if you'd not been in a group? What do you think your experience would have been like?
This beyond joyful, without it, because I stand alone in my political views. Not my children, but my family around me are not in agreement. Yeah. And so I have had very little conversation with them, and I really struggle with that. And so just being with extraordinary women that are like-minded gives me a lot of hope. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of us, but it was just nice to have that experience. Yeah.
So great. Yeah, it's been good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah. All right, who's next? What'd you learn about cultivating your well-being even when the world is crazy?
Okay, I'll go.
Hey, Nan.
I think, what you just said actually is the thing that I learned the most is how wonderful it is to be in a group of people that are going through a similar experience. And you holding for all of us and having this all outlined for us, it really just calmed from the first week. It calmed me down in terms of what was going on with this election. Like, I don't have to panic. I don't have to freak out. We've got tools, we got ways we can handle this. So I think it's like, I'm not a joiner. Typically, I'm a solo person, have been for many years, but yet I find myself joining things all the time. So maybe that's not even true anymore.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, it's just so powerful to have that we could all just like, we're all going through the same thing, and none of us really need to freak out about it because we're all here, and so that was, the group idea, and just calming me down that we're just here today, and we'll be fine till next week, and then we just do it a week at a time. So that, I'd have to say, that's the biggest thing for me.
Nice. Yes.
And learning, even better self-care during that whole 5 weeks. So
nice.
So
beautiful. Thanks, Nance. Glad you're here. Yes. Nancy helped me with the title.
I'll
started out calling it Surviving the Election, and then I was like, that's not very empowering. So thank you for helping me.
It got a lot longer though after we talked.
I don't even remember what the name is, but I know it's
I don't either.
All right, Sharon, go ahead. And
well,
Sharon, yes, Sharon was my muse.
I was going to say, first of all, on the heels of that, because I agree with Nancy, that's the biggest difference for me too. That, and as Patricia said, getting outside into the air. whether I feel like it or not. But yeah, I think the lesson might be to speak my concerns aloud to somebody who will then decide to hold a course and bring a group together to be a container on it. Definitely the way to go.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna, for
Yes.
listening to and for seeing the need, seriously. Because there is value for all of us beyond this. But so I take tremendous value from the container, and I know that's ironic since I wasn't here all the time or fully here or whatever, but knowing it's there is a reminder that this is a thing we're all going through. It's not reality. It's not me. It's where it's what's happening, and we're all doing some version of it. And just having that present to mind made a big difference. Put it in a different context. It's like, instead of reality, it's just kind of the phenomenon of the moment.
Right.
Kind of like the distinction Roberta made about a feeling as opposed to the way things are.
Right.
I was going to say one other thing. Oh, in terms of what more to do, I mean, dialing up all of it, the presence, the self-care, all of it. But for me in particular, I want to find my sweet spot around this piece of being active because it's empowering versus being active because it's avoidant or convenient or easier or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There's something, it's great to just be aware of like, oh, maybe it's even, I don't have to change all the action I'm doing. I just have to add in a little bit more of the, like, doing a check-in with yourself once a day or doing once a week, like just experimenting with like, how can I just experiment with like different ways of, bringing more of that in. So love it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks.
Yep. Laura.
Well, I found during this 5 weeks that there were a lot of triggers that came up in the election, and that it was very helpful to me to identify what they were and then feel them in my body and know when I was betraying myself. Because I would betray myself by doing more than I wanted to.
Nice.
And not saying something. It was because it was so intense. It gave me a high opportunity to learn a lot of that. That was one thing. The second thing that I really have loved is that because of the container, I have felt I've grown as a citizen. And that because there was a safety net. I was like, okay, Laura, take a bath. Now let's go learn about the Electoral College. Okay, I don't understand runoffs. Okay, I'm gonna ask this one about runoffs. But then at the same time, if I get anxious, I have tools.
Right.
I have a lot of tools. The other thing I did is I worked out every day.
Nice.
And for me, being physical is exceptionally helpful.
Nice.
Like I need to get my anxiety out. I can't sit around. So that's been really, really important for me to know.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
thank you. And Donna, thank you. This was really very, very special. I also believe in possibilities more. There are possibilities that we don't have to stay stuck. There's a big, big range.
Right.
So,
right. And each of us taking dominion and focusing on ourselves opens up possibility.
Yes.
If we're all hunkered down and just focusing on and worrying, then we aren't in our lives. And that's what I'm interested in. You all being in your lives, being in your life. Like Laura, you saying you could participate more because you were taking care of yourself. You could do both.
Yes.
And you could do it in a way that was self-honoring versus, like you said, just like over giving and betraying yourself. Like that's the game.
Yeah.
Yes. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. It was really very, very good. Very good. And I never knew about tapping. So that was really
cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. In fact, I forgot about it until you just mentioned it just now. So thank you. That was good.
I'm so glad. Yes. All right, we might go a few minutes over, but we want to hear from Sue and Roberta. If anyone has to go, feel free. I'm so sorry if you do, but anyone have to go? Can we take a few more minutes? Okay, Sue.
I'm gonna like third everybody on the physical part of it. When you say like the kind of things like what I learned was it was easy to let go of sleep, but at the same time, sleep would be one of the more important things to get during this time so that you can be rested and ready to go for things. Definitely did a ton of physical activity, which also helped me keep connected with friends because I would do it with people, whether it was on Zoom or in person. So that was definitely connecting, but the physicality of it. And then I also learned, because of the physical activity, just how much tension I was holding, like in various parts of my body. Like my feet were sore, so I started rubbing my feet, and then I just discovered like there was so much tension, like in my feet or my lower legs, and that's not just from like my exercise. It's just like, here's where I hold my tension.
Right.
So then I started doing more like self-massaging and actually spending some time working on that, learning some techniques to like walk on balls and stuff with my feet so that I could start to release some tension. I got together with a friend and we traded massages, and so that was really, really fun too. So it's just kind of like, oh, here's how I can get some of these needs met and take better care of my physical body. But as I'm doing that, that just leaves me much more energy to contribute in whichever ways I
Nice.
decide to contribute.
Yes.
And I also discovered that I do much better if I have things on a set schedule, in the sense of if I have certain things that I'm like a class that's a Zoom class that starts at a certain time on a certain day, or Zoom discussion groups and things like that. It helps to set my day up in a good way because I'm not currently working an outside job at this point in time. So having those points during my day gave me something to structure my life around.
So beautiful. It's so great too. I just really hear it's almost like the Zoom manual of loving self-care is being really, your manual is getting really clear. Like what works for you, what supports you, what holds you, what makes you more available to yourself and to others. And so cool. And you're someone who likes to be highly engaged. So I like but that you didn't throw yourself out. You know what I mean? Like you didn't put yourself to the side.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
And I
good.
did notice, like, I mean, I really noticed that social media addiction, and also acknowledging that, gee, if I had not spent this much time on social media, I could, like when the ladies were saying about, like, I could learn more about the history. Because I think history is really important, and that maybe I would rather spend my time doing some significant reading rather than just,
Scrolling. Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with a little mindless scrolling given all you're doing. I just want to also be an encourager of like mindlessly scroll once in a while. It's okay.
I'm never gonna stop that, but just like
I know, I hear you. Yeah. I'm always gonna be a proponent of like even more slow, even more space, but sometimes numbing out is okay too. But I hear you to the degree that it feels good to you. Yeah, totally. Beautiful, Stu. It's been great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah. All right, Roberta, bring us home.
Yeah. Water.
Water.
Made a huge difference in my life in the last month.
Nice.
I upped my water intake and my eyes are not as dry as they used to be. And I have more energy.
Nice.
Even if I don't have enough sleep, which I've been getting more sleep. So that's a huge key for me, is sleep.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But the water, in the last month, I upped to like at least 8 cups a day. And I feel like a different person.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had so many things. I absolutely love support groups. And I realize I'm in a support group almost every day, a weekday of some sort, where I connect with the same people in a supportive way every week, and how every day, every week, and how really that keeps me connected and connected to other people and also myself. And so this is, and I learned so many new things, and everybody's got a different perspective. So like in this class, like what are really think about more about what are the tools, the actual tools that I am already using, but like put them down and go, and I have a whole list of like, oh yeah, and there's another one, and there's another one, and there's
Nice.
another.
Yeah.
So, and inspired by you, I went from my rebounding only 1 minute at a time. Several times I upped it to 2 minutes.
Amazing.
So I can
You
get
did
to
it
5.
more minutes than I did. I did 15 today though, but I was.
Oh, wow. In one set?
Yes, my sister and I are rebounding. My younger sister and I are both got a rebounder, and she sent me a video on 90s dance moves. So I did that today.
Cool. So
So
yeah, that's helped. I can see I've and over the past weeks, I've really upped my self-care in a way that it's like, oh wow, it's where it's become my everyday routine.
That's amazing, Roberta. That is amazing. Good for you. I really hear containers work for you. It's so
Yeah.
great. It's just good to notice. Good to notice. And sometimes they shift and change depending on where you are in your life. Like I've done that a lot. It's like, okay, I used to be someone that sticks with someone for a long time. And I feel like in the last few years, not that there's anything wrong with sticking with someone for a long time, but I've also been like, oh, okay, that worked for me for a year. Okay, now it's time to shift. I feel a new change coming, and I'm going to get myself, what's the container I should be in for that that's going to support me, and just having it around you. So I just appreciate all of you totally dedicating time to this. It was really inspiring for me to be around people who are really engaged in the process, not only with their self-care, but with the activism piece as well. Very inspiring. And I have no plans. I'm giving myself till 2021 to figure out what's next. If there's any new classes coming up or new groups, I'm feeling like something new is coming in. This has been very inspiring to me. It really gave me, it was a class that came for me. It was not something that, like, Sharon brought it up, but then it was like, I kept going like, no, I just launched a class. I don't know. And it was like, I want you to do this. You're going to do this. So, thankfully, the divine is giving me a little breathing room to figure out what's next. But I will keep you all posted and let you know if there's any new containers coming in the new year. Thank you again. It's been an honor and a privilege. We did it. We are on the other side of the election for the most part. January 5th, Georgia runoff is the next big moment. Everyone pay attention, right, Sharon Friedland? And
Right.
till then,
Everybody knows
you.
why, right?
Yep.
Never mind.
Yep.
Never mind. You'll
Make
find
it
out
very
why if you
interesting
don't
in
know.
the Senate, that's for sure.
but in the meantime, use the tools, use the worksheets that I gave y'all, keep those emails. You'll have access to these recordings. You can go back and do the breathing session. You can tap if you wanted to. You can, just use everything and just take great care of yourselves. All right.
Donna, thank you so
Donna.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Donna. You rock.
Yeah.
You do.
Really
Yeah.
My pleasure,
Really
y'all.
do.
Take care.
Thanks everyone. Be well.
Bye.
Get some
Thank
rest,
you.
everybody.